This past year wasn't about building something perfect. It was about remembering my voice, my intuition, and who I am beneath the roles I play. Today, I'm closing the first season of Star Potential and opening the next chapter. Let's get into it. Welcome to Star Potential, a podcast where we explore the meaning of our existence while having a few laughs and sometimes tears through stories from the road of life. I'm your host, Julie Jo Hughes. As a stage performer, my life is quite literally about song and dance. I believe that life here on Earth is a playground for discovery, not a contest to be won. We ask questions together like, how do I evolve my consciousness? And how do you sing a passionate ballad when there's an old guy in the front row with his balls showing? True story. Stick around for these fun conversations. Welcome to Star Potential. I'm your host, Julie Jo. Wow, it has been almost a full year since launching the first episode of Star Potential. And as we close out both the calendar year and the first season of this podcast, I've been going through my own internal reflections, looking back over who I was when I started this and who I am now, and what's happened in between. There have been a lot of personal lessons, and I'm excited to share with you what my own evolution is doing to serve the evolution of the podcast, too. And if you've been along on this journey, thank you. With deepest gratitude from my heart for coming along on this journey with me. It has definitely been a deep dive into my own spirituality, personal development, and it really was never about the metrics. It has always been about who I'm becoming. If you've been listening from episode 1, then you know that I felt a strong calling to start this podcast, but I didn't know exactly why. You hear that a lot in like business talk, personal development talk. What is your why? You come back to your why. That was definitely something I was beat over the head with when I was doing direct sales. And what I have found in my deepest spiritual development is that there is a lot of not knowing why, but it's a deeper conviction than having it all figured out. And it's not blind faith either. It's not a belief in something that's been completely unseen and unfelt. Sometimes it is unseen. But my driving force behind this podcast has really come from an intuition, from an internal knowing, from a bigger calling than myself, something that was just deeply known that I'm supposed to be here doing this and that I don't know exactly where it's leading me to. Of course, I have my North Star. I have my things that are guiding me along the way, and I have my touchstones. I have my own value pillars. I'm developing brand pillars, I guess you could say, developing my personal brand, but the personal brand is coming out of who I truly am, not who I'm trying to present myself to be, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of this first season, if I could put a theme on the whole season 1 of Star Potential, it would be the year of remembering. Remembering that I'm a storyteller, remembering these patterns that I've spotted along the way in my life, remembering the essence of who I truly am, which is bringing me back home to myself. It's bringing me back to the core of what I love to do, how I love to express. And it's been a journey this year of feeling those internal nudges and following some of them and stifling others. And then finding myself getting caught up in playing a new role of podcaster, noticing that, and then wanting to let some of that go, noticing that I was trying to be something a little bit, and then practicing what I am preaching, which is dropping that and allowing all parts of myself to be seen. There were times when I felt that if I would let all of the facets of me through, especially like my really silly side, then maybe people wouldn't take my content as seriously. And so for a while there, I think I got really deep and heavy, thinking that I had to be really serious to teach this, what I consider very weighty subject material. And in so doing, I actually realized that the lightheartedness, the joy, the shininess that I embody is what makes me me. And if I deny that sparkly side of me as I'm teaching something kind of big and heavy, then it doesn't land as deeply, it doesn't resonate as truly because it's not all of me. It's kind of me slotting into a role of the serious spiritual guide. And so, even though all of these things are personal reflections of my own, my intention for you, my listener, is always that there is something in my stories that is relatable to you. There is always a lesson or something that I've pulled from that part of the journey that I see as universally relatable, and that I'm hoping you can insert yourself into pieces of my story that will help you to spot your own patterns, have your own revelations, and to see where you are on your own journey. So, this episode is just a short little pause, reflection. It's not an ending by any means, but it is a threshold as we reflect on this first season of the journey we've taken together, and then a little preview of what's to come and the energy that we're stepping into next. It's both a closing and an opening. But just like the flow of life, there is no stopping and then we start something new. It's all just one continuous flow. Just like I don't deny the versions of myself that came before this one, and I don't deny this current one as I step into the next version of myself. It's all just a continuous flow, and everything is always leading you to the next one. What stirred in me a year ago, when I started this, it wasn't that I felt completely ready and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I had a very strong nudge and I had a lot of excitement. I had a beginner's mindset. I didn't have anything to prove. I was just exploring. When I came back to my studio that I learned how to build week after week, it was my act of courage in pressing record every single week and bringing you some kind of reflection in real time as I'm going through it. I didn't start this because I have everything figured out and now I'm ready to teach the world what I've learned. I really started this as my own spiritual practice of learning how to be an authentic version of myself. And in a self assessment today, I wouldn't necessarily say, and now I'm 100% authentic and everything you see is 100% how it is. It's not that. I am working towards that. I'm learning how to fully love and embrace every piece of me that wants to come out. But I do feel that there are some of those facets that I still tend to stifle a little. And maybe you'll continue to witness my evolution as we go forward. And I'm okay with that because I didn't come here to be perfect. I actually said that in the first episode, I think. But I just want to model for others that when you begin to let go of what you think you should be or what you're supposed to be, you actually start to easily fall into who you already are. That doesn't need to add anything to it. And from that place, you can hear your own intuition again. You can hear the parts of you that want to be expressed. And when we heed that call, that's when you discover things that you didn't even know were possible, things that you didn't know you were capable of. And throughout the year, I have had lots of urges to maybe I could take it in this direction or this direction. And I've tried a little bit of those directions. But this year was never about teaching, it was always about remembering, remembering my voice, my stories, my intuition, remembering who I am beneath the roles I play and the identities that I claim, and sharing my stories as breadcrumbs back home to the essence of me. But now, as I continue, as one of my guests who has become my friend pointed out to me, she said, "You're really on the heroine's journey." And I hadn't really thought about it before, but if you look up the heroine's journey, yes, perhaps that is it. So the heroine's journey is when, in a nutshell, the main character of our story tries to sort of take on the masculine identities. She falls into the patriarchal system of trying to prove herself and does achieve success with this model. But she is not finding her inner wholeness. She has discontentment. She doesn't feel at peace within herself because she's denied her divine feminine energy. And the heroine's journey, so the hero's journey is all about an outward exploration, kind of divide and conquer. It's exploring out in the world and overcoming something. The heroine's journey, however, is all about the inward journey. She actually achieves outward success, but she doesn't truly complete the journey until she goes inward. The heroine's journey is all about the inward journey, and it's rejoining, re-honoring, it's reintegrating the masculine and the feminine energies together to find her inherent wholeness within. And I would say the beginning of that story for me is what began in 2023, when at the time I thought I was having a midlife crisis. And it's funny how we can label these things differently depending on what lens you use to look at it, right? But now at this part in my journey, I can see how that's exactly what I'm doing is things had to feel unfulfilling, even if they looked okay on the outside, because I needed something to force me to go inward. And it was the physical loss of my voice that caught my attention enough to inspire me to do that. It didn't feel like inspiration at the time. It felt like I had no other choice, but I'm so grateful for it now. So, in that descent inward to my inner journey, I have discovered that by returning to my natural voice, by sharing my own stories, my own insights, and not playing a role here, that storytelling is opening unexpected doors. The people that I've met this year through doing this, the relationships that have kindled through doing this, the inspiring one-on-one conversations that I've been able to have because of kind of putting all my stuff out there in vulnerability has sparked all of these one-on-one conversations in the direct messages that are, I keep telling my husband, like, I think this is why I'm doing this. Like, I just crave like these real conversations. And by doing this podcast week after week, even if I didn't know exactly what was calling me to do it, I was feeling the payoff all along by these amazing, rich, real conversations that I'm getting to have with people that I wouldn't necessarily be talking to under other circumstances. It's not that I don't want to, but it's just that maybe there was nothing there to spark that conversation rather than just seeing each other on social media or something. But by putting this stuff out there, it kind of opens the door for people to share their vulnerability as well. It's been such a beautiful gift of this work. There were things I spoke out loud on the air that I hadn't even fully named myself yet. It was like a journey and self-discovery along the way, even though I was kind of setting out to pass along these stories with some sort of moral or lesson. But in the telling of them, I actually have been integrating my own lessons. It's helping me to embody the things I've learned. So even though I could see them from a level of awareness, by sharing them now with others, in a sense, teaching them, that's what has been my level of embodiment. That's the step that has happened for me. And that was one of my biggest insights is that in this vulnerability, it's not about just journaling my thoughts on a piece of paper, but by sharing them publicly with others, it actually helps me embody and integrate the lessons that I've learned. Kind of amazing. One of the other things I noticed along this journey this year was my deep connection to creatures in nature. I guess I've always known this. I mean, I opened the first episode talking about how I wanted to communicate with the birds and the cats on our farm. And I made a joke about how I was trying to be Snow White. But it actually helped me recognize a pattern. And in the recognition of that pattern, I have been visited by more and more nature spirits, animals, creatures in nature, insects. They're communicating with me more and more boldly. And I don't see this as the individual creatures communicating with me necessarily, maybe my own dog, but it's more like me communicating with myself, if that makes sense. As I recognize my own patterns and gifts more clearly, the world finds ways to reflect that back to me because the world around me is just a reflection of my own essence that I'm emanating out, right? That's what we talk about a lot here. And so as I recognize that I have this deeper connection and intuition with nature, nature communicates with me more directly, more and more directly. And that's one thing I'm excited to dive into more into season 2 of Star Potential is I'm going to be more and more vocal about these kinds of things, the unseen things that don't necessarily make sense to everyone. I'd like to be one of the voices that speaks those things out loud so that if you're experiencing that too, you know you're not crazy, it's a thing. And we're going to be speaking even more deeply about intuition, connection with the unseen, things that are all around you that are informing your reality, how everything is a feedback loop all the time. We're going to be talking more about these things in season 2. There were things that happened that I could not ignore the symbolism in, like the fact that I recorded an entire episode about something that happened with 3 different visits from a praying mantis. And that was the episode where my microphone was muted the entire time. What it said to me was that that lesson that I wanted to share was not fully integrated and embodied in me yet. And it wasn't quite ready to be shared. I only understood it from an awareness or an intellectual level, but I still had a little bit of embodiment work to do before that message could really, truly land. And little things like that were so freaking exciting for me along the way that I would say, okay, I get it. Let me save that one a little bit. Let me integrate that lesson for myself a little more. And then I'll turn around and I'll bring you that lesson in season 2. There were old patterns that repeated for me. Like as I continued being this podcaster, I had this new podcaster role, and I kept saying that I didn't need external validation and things anymore. And in a lot of ways, I have grown and I don't need those things anymore. But old habits die hard, right? And there were a lot of things. There were a lot of opportunities presented to me where I got to practice what I am embodying. For instance, the more vulnerable and open and true my stories got, the more sides of me that I wanted to show, my downloads started tanking. The numbers started dropping off. I felt like I really launched with a bang and I really held on to people for quite a while. And after a while, when the newness of it maybe had worn off, when the direction of what the podcast was really about began to take shape, there were many people that must have decided, this isn't really for me. And I truly am okay with that. I believe that I'm here for the people that want to hear the message that I want to speak, and that isn't everyone. And that's okay. But sometimes the human side of me in going through that it's hard not to take that personally and you think, oh, I'm doing something wrong. What am I doing? I'm losing listeners, I'm losing downloads. But what was also happening simultaneously was that I was gaining a lot of loyalty and new followers, new listeners. So people that don't know me at all, they weren't listening because they were my friend or friend of a friend, but they were listening because something in the content spoke to them or they somehow attracted my message to them. Those are the ones that it was truly making an impact for those people. And because it resonated with them so deeply, it told me that I am on the right track. Even if I'm niching down to a smaller and smaller audience, it's the right audience. And that was another lesson for me. It's one I continue to walk, that I just have to trust that as long as what I am doing feels resonant and true for me, if it's coming from a place of expansion, from a place of truth, it's not coming from a place of needing to prove anything, it's not coming from a place of fearing that I'm going to lose downloads or listeners, as long as it's coming from my inherent wholeness, then the downloads are really irrelevant. That's not what the podcast is about. But sometimes that was easier said than done. With my guests this year, I had the opportunity to practice learning to listen more than I speak. I also had the opportunity to learn how to sort of navigate a conversation in real time, how to be fully present, but also be the one that keeps us on track with time, be the one that keeps us sort of relevantly on topic. I really enjoyed that role. This year asked me to shed old identities I carried, old definitions of success, old ways of performing and proving myself. It asked me to shed the discomfort of not yet knowing who it is I'm becoming or what I'm doing. And it asked me to allow things to fall away gently, not dramatically. The gift for me of season 1 is that I have reclaimed my voice, my intuition, my trust in myself, my spiritual sensitivity, which I'm not ashamed of, and my creative authority. I'm moving from telling stories to becoming the story. I'm feeling more embodied, more grounded, more present, not just on the podcast, but in all aspects of my daily life. I'm noticing during the day the little ways I'm still trying to prove myself or still trying to be funny instead of just being myself and letting that be received however it might be received. And now, as we step into season 2, because I walked this season fully, I'm now stepping into a role of integration guide more than storyteller. The stories are what got us here, but now we're moving into the next energetic phase. My purpose feels more grounded. My dreams are getting bigger. My vision is gaining more and more clarity. I'm trusting myself more and more. There are things I've been building which remain unfinished, but I'm not feeling the urgency to get them out just because, but rather I'm trusting the timing of my own journey. I'm trusting that as the clarity comes, that's the sign to release things. As I look back on this past version of myself that started this podcast and went on this journey this year, and I'd like you to do the same for yourself, I want to recognize and give gratitude to this version of myself. I want to thank this version of myself for being vulnerable, for being willing to be a bit unpolished, a bit messy, and being willing to discover something new. And the truth that I've learned that feels more embodied than conceptual now is that when we give, to get, then we're always living in this state of expectancy, of expectation. And that can set us up for all kinds of disappointment, dramatic tendencies, But when we give to express who we are, to experience, to stay in a state of natural flow, then we receive more than what we ever even dreamed was possible. That's what I'm fully embodying now. So here's what I want you to take away from the journey we've taken here in season 1. I want you to feel truly permitted to step into more of all that you are. Give yourself the permission to explore more life. No matter what roles you're playing, allow yourself to play. When you play, that's when you discover. That's when inspiration strikes. That's when you find these treasures inside yourself that you didn't even really realize that you had. And I want to gently disrupt the myth that we have to know exactly where we're going in order to get somewhere great. Because that's what kept me stuck for so long. I thought I had to have the exact vision of what I wanted. And because I didn't really have that, I kept waiting for that before I would really go. Because I was afraid I might head in the wrong direction, so I just wouldn't head in any. Now, it's not that I haven't lived an amazing life up till that realization, but the moment when you start allowing yourself to just experiment and try and discover more things in life, that's when you get more feedback. That's when you truly come home to what you really do want. And so it always comes back to play. When we look at children, they don't get stressed out when you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They just give you an answer. They're not afraid of needing to change their answer next month, next week, when they want to be something different. But as adults, we think, I have to declare something, and then that's scary because then I have to do that, But if we would go back and drop all those expectations, if you just kind of say, let me play with this a little bit and see how that feels, then you discover you either want more of that or maybe you want to go in a different direction. But it's the action that gives you that feedback so that you know what you like, what you want more of. And my story, what I hope it does for you, is that it normalizes the messy middle of figuring things out without romanticizing it. I'm not the picture of huge success at this point. But what I do model is drive, ambition, truth, vulnerability, constant expansion, constant learning. It's not even about reinventing ourselves. It's really just about expansion. You can go more in this direction, more in this direction, maybe these two directions at the same time. Ooh, that's a little bit challenging. Maybe we go more in this direction for a while. Oh, now I kind of want to go this way. And that's all right, because that is all expansion. We're rounding out our edges. If we try to go only in one direction and then we feel like a failure in that direction, we don't just have to stop growing. You can grow in a different way. And that's what I hope that this season of remembering has done, not only for me, but for you, is that when we can recognize who we've always been beneath all of our stories, we remember what brings us pure joy, what puts us in our true essence. And when we're there, we really do have limitless potential. We have star potential. It's not anything we have to gain. We only have to recognize that it's always been there. This was the season of remembering, and the journey is just beginning. Thank you for being part of my remembering, and here's to the next threshold. I'll see you in Season 2. Thank you for tuning into Star Potential with Julie Jo Hughes. If this episode resonates with you, I invite you to take 2 seconds, scroll down and click 5 stars on the rating. It's a fast and easy way to help the show gain exposure and momentum. If you're loving the show, I invite you to leave a quick review about what you love. Reviews are like gold to podcasters, and to show my gratitude, you'll be entered to win my monthly giveaway when you send me a screenshot of your review. I also made you a gift. It's a 9-minute simple gratitude meditation with singing to help you practice mindfulness. Just visit me on Instagram at @TheJulieJo or find the link in the show notes. Thank you for your love and support. Until next time, keep shining your light. And that's a wrap.